And we are here. I'm so excited. I'm Dr. Annette D'Armata. This is day 7 of 8 days of programming for Radio VoxFem's 2021 Festival #1. And today I have the immense pleasure, joy, honor of presenting Dr. Aimee Knauff. We did an interview. We actually did 2 interviews, and I put it together as one interview. And we also have Aimee here with us today. So please say hello, Aimee.
Hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Annette, for having me be a part of this festival. It has been really awesome to watch.
Thank you. We have had, I hope people are enjoying it as much as we are, because we're having a great time every day. And I'm not going to go into an introduction for Dr. Knauff right now, because that's done in the interview. I introduced her there, but I do want to at least, for those who haven't been following the festival, please go on Facebook. If you may be seeing this on Facebook, or you may be seeing it later, and if so, on Facebook we are VoxFem, VoxFem, or it's at Radio VoxFem on all social media. And our website is voxfem.org, voxfem.org. Anything you see is going to eventually end up in all of those places. Encourage you to look through the website. We present, it's our mission to present women, artists, and change makers from every nation and occupied territory on earth. We're working as hard and fast on it as we can. We have one more day of this program, of this festival. That doesn't mean that's the end of the programming, but of this particular set of 8 events. And tomorrow, want to invite you all to come same time, noon Central Standard Time, on the Zoom link or on Facebook Live. Tomorrow is the Annie Flore Bachialilis, and she's from Gabon. She's a singer-songwriter from Gabon. She'll be with us live. And we also are going to watch some of her videos together, and then she will be with us live. We'll also have host singer-songwriter, Puerto Rican singer-songwriter Lourdes Spence. Okay, Aimee, did you want to say anything before we start the interview?
Actually, yesterday, listening to Irma Aguilar, her song in English, the True Love song, part of, in the chorus and in that whole song about, not realizing that, that you would become each other's best friend, and providing peace and allowing you to walk through life and pulling out that little girl from inside of her. I was like, that sounds like the higher being that's a song from above to each of us, like I really appreciated her talk, but that song struck me in a different way, which I thought is an interesting perspective. It's just where you are in life. And anyways, but no, I don't have anything else to say.
I love that. And then at the end, we're going to give you, at the end, and also at the bottom attached to this video, we're going to give you links, important links for you to know about. And we are going to go to the interview now. Let's see. Okay, we can all mute. If we can all mute now. And I'm gonna act like I'm a young person and I know exactly how to do this very smoothly. Watch me.
Like from one beloved.
Hello and welcome to VoxFem Global Health Minute. And I'm your host, Dr. Annette D'Armata. For those of you who don't know, our Global Health Minute that we started this year is about global health, but it's not a minute. We just like to mess with you like that. We get you in with the minute, and then we keep you for 40 minutes, an hour, with really amazing people. And if you don't know about VoxFem, our mission, and we chose to accept it, is that we wanted to find and feature at least one singer-songwriter, composer, filmmaker, visual artist, and change maker from every nation and occupied territory on Earth. So we're going to be busy for a little while. And there are already just amazing women that are on our website. So go to voxfem.org, VoxFem.org. We're also on all the social media, but definitely you can go through, just spend time going through all of these amazing women on the website. Our Global Health Minute, I'm really excited to be featuring women who are they're all change makers. And so that's really part of my focus, how they're doing something amazing in health and changing our health for the better. In the process of healing and in talking about healing, I think it's very important. We at VoxFem think it's very important also to acknowledge, recognize the original caretakers of the land where we are broadcasting. And we broadcast from many places, but primarily from San Antonio, Texas. And so we want to acknowledge the Estocna, the Carrizo Come Crudo, the Coahuiltec Nation, and also that this is the homeland of the Chicana, Chicanx, Chicano peoples, and we are very grateful that we are here. You will have heard this for my guest today. You will have heard me use this disclaimer before. My disclaimer is that I have no objectivity whatsoever when it comes to my next guest, because my next guest, Dr. Aimee Knauff, is a friend of mine for the last 15 years. She was also a classmate of mine, and I'm going to go ahead and read her official bio, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about why she's a hero of mine. Okay, and I don't use that lightly. Okay, so Dr. Aimee Knauff, she lives in Western Pennsylvania these days, although we met in Arizona, with her loving husband and her 3 adventurous children. She's been on many service trips to Haiti and other countries where she enjoyed serving the people she encountered and learning life lessons from them. She earned a bachelor's degree from Gannon University in Erie, Pennsylvania, followed by a naturopathic doctorate from Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona. She had a solo medical practice in Vermont for several years, all the while struggling with recurrent brain cancer. Dr. Knauff has been through 4 brain surgeries, radiation, and chemotherapy. She currently has a 5th tumor, and after undergoing a year of treatment, has decided that quality of life is more important than quantity. God has blessed her with supportive family and friends for whom she is grateful. Dr. Knauff practices mindfulness each day and says that she's thankful to God for the miracle of breath, the miracle of life, and the miracle of death alike. Now I want to say my part of this. I knew Aimee, and this may be shocking to you, but I know she'll appreciate this. I knew Aimee 5 brain tumors and 3 kids ago. And so I think actually we met after the first. I'm gonna make sure that she has my chronology right, but we met after she had entered medical school before me, had a brain tumor, and then re-entered with my class. And honestly, it was one of those things where, and to this day, the way I would describe Aimee is one of those people. I don't like to ascribe superhuman traits to people. I think it's dehumanizing, as well as when you talk, when you say somebody is less than. I think sometimes when you give superhuman traits, it can be dehumanizing. But I do want to say this. I think Aimee is one of those people in life that can teach us and does teach us how do you face extraordinary circumstances, whether the ones you choose for yourself or the ones that life throws at you, with extraordinary grace and and in that process remain being a normal person. I think that is such a beautiful lesson. Like, how do you have this normal life and normal human relationships with such extraordinary challenges? And I think in this time, I can't think of anybody better to teach us than Aimee Knauff at this moment. So that's why I wanted to have her on. The other reason is that she has written a book. She's written a memoir, and that book is Beloved and Brain Cancer, Living Each Moment as If It Were Your Last. So please welcome Dr. Aimee Knauff. This is virtual applause.
Thank you.
Multiplied by millions. That's like the stadium.
Thank
And
you.
Aimee, I want to say this too. You asked me, and I want to be sure that I honor this. So Aimee also wanted me to say to the audience at the beginning of this that because of the brain cancer, to please have some patience, that sometimes one of the ways that it affects you, Aimee, is there's sometimes difficulty finding words. So it may take a little longer, but you get there. And so, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate being on your show, knowing you. It's been an amazing journey we've had together, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So my book is sort of the story of my life, which, everyone that knows me, they were asking, and I had a couple people write something to put on the back of the book, and they were like, well, do I need to read the book? Or I said, if you know me, you know what my book is about.
Right. I mean, I started off by talking about this time of great loss. I mean, this is a time where people are really struggling to find and keep meaning in very, more isolated ways in some ways, and everything is different. And so I think, what you bring in your daily life of living with brain cancer now for 15 years, 16 years?
16 years.
16 years of every single day. That's a lot of days of facing and living with, like what you said, living each moment as if it were your last. So I guess we alluded to it in the bio, but I want to ask you this. One of the other things I love about Aimee, folks, is that one of the things that she was just known for is, I don't know, I call her the great concentrator of things, because she could just take something very complex and condense it into just one hilarious sentence or one phrase that just concise. You're like, oh my God, yes, and just hilarious. So, or even if it wasn't hilarious, but I wanted to ask you, condenser, in just a few words, what would you say is, where are you at right now in your process with where are you at, beloved, with the brain cancer?
Well, so I still have tumor 5. I went through a year plus of chemo, and one chemo I had finished the cycles and my lungs couldn't handle anymore. And I'm grateful that I did that chemo, because it gave me another year and a half of functioning well. Because before that, a year ago, well, last March 2019, I actually met with hospice because I wasn't functioning well. Mm-hmm. And then the next day I actually got an MRI and went to my neuro-oncologist. And she said that they had just come across a new protocol that would shrink the tumor and help me restore function, because, as the tumor grows. And so I did that, and it really did. It shrunk the tumor. I felt so much better. I felt normal, mm-hmm. almost, which, mm-hmm. I mean, normal plus 4 brain surgeries, but, then she gave me a chemo pill that was more geared towards colon cancer, metastatic breast cancer. It had like real symptoms, and I felt terrible on it. And at that point I was like, I don't want just quantity of life, because, you know, they could keep me alive forever if I really wanted, but I want quality. I have 3 children who are adventurous, to say the least. And, you know, just to be able to be with them and to invest in them and to pour in everything that I've got before it's, you know, before I get to out there. I feel like, yeah, I'm losing, especially working memory, and my short-term memory, is decreasing because of the tumor that I have. And then in addition to it all, I also got diagnosed with, high-grade endometrial cancer, because for the year that I had my chemo, I wasn't cycling. And then I started cycling. So I was like, okay, but I kept bleeding on and off, on and off, on and off. And, you know, I actually went through menopause while I was in having my year of chemo, but I didn't know that. And, you know, I think we know as doctors, if you a postmenopausal woman who's bleeding, that's a big deal.
Right.
I didn't know that I was a postmenopausal woman.
Right.
So when I got introduced to a wonderful gynecologist, and he took a sample, and it said endometrial hyperplasia. He did a DNC, and that's what came back as high-grade endometrial cancer. He's like, I'm so sorry, I have to tell you this. And I was like, I'm okay with it. And he's like, what do you mean you're okay with it? He's like, you know, I said, Adam and I, my husband, we kind of had a joke all these years. If I had cancer anywhere else, I would be so happy to have them cut it out, but my brain would still work, you know?
Yes.
And so the fact that I said, you've probably never given anyone their 6th cancer diagnosis. And he's like, well, I guess you're kind of right. And I was like, and to have that taken out, I'm happy. That works, you know? So it's like, you get your cancer out and I don't have to cycle anymore. I think we both win. But at the same time, you know, I had a port in for my chemo, you know, and all that stuff. And I said, I other than having you take it out, I don't want any more treatment. So they even took my port out in the surgery, and, you know, and I felt really good about the decision that I had made. So
that's, you almost, by the time you're done, you almost want to say congratulations. Like, I was like, oh, my uterus? Yeah. No big deal. Take that out. I'm thrilled. Good. So, and in comparison to brain cancer, like I said, anywhere in my body, that was a good place for it to have it. One of the things that people say, there's so many things I want to ask you, and I'm just going to try to ask them all.
Okay.
And by the way, we have no script. We decided we were going to have just a conversation like we would normally, because I think the things that I want to ask are things that people just are curious about, and they feel like they can't. They tippy-toe around, right? And for those of
me, I'm honest. I'm brutally honest.
Exactly. That's what I love about you. And so I think one of the things that people want to know, loved ones of people who have a diagnosis, they always say, I don't know what to say. And so, you know, people do kind of drop off. A lot of times when you most need someone, friends disappear because they feel awkward. They don't know what to say. And really, they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to hurt your feelings, or they think somehow they're going to say something that's going to send you into like a mental health crisis. I think they don't say that, but that's kind of what they think. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, as somebody who has lived with cancer, and maybe even thinking back to like in the earlier times, because now now you're like been riding on this roller coaster for so long, you know, not that makes it easy, and I'm not making light of it at all, but I think the initial diagnosis is much more shocking. And then when you get to your 6th one with the endometrial cancer, you're like, take it out. The first one, What are there any words that people should avoid when talking to people? Are there any pitfalls, like, don't say to somebody this, that, or the other? Or is it okay to, people think they should talk about, like, how are the kids, but they avoid the elephant in the living room? Like, what would you say to people? How do they talk to somebody who's gotten a diagnosis?
I think the first thing I'm going to say is Adam and I went to there's a gathering every year in Vermont for cancer patients, all kinds of cancer patients, and it's free to go. It's and they bring in all these speakers. And one of the speakers said that cancer is not a death sentence. Always. I mean, for my cancer, it is a death sentence in a way, but he said it's more like a chronic illness. Mm-hmm. And how would you talk to someone with a chronic illness? And I thought, I can deal with chronic illness. That makes sense to me. Just like hypertension or diabetes or whatever, cancer is a diagnosis of long-term, illness. But you don't talk to people like they're crazy when they have diabetes. You don't talk to people. And so I think that's the first thing, to realize. And the second is, from in recent time too, I've had weekly meetings with this priest that I absolutely love. I met him in college 20 years ago, and he has continued to be in our lives throughout this whole time. And we've been reading Thich Nhat Hanh books, and I'm now on my 4th Thich Nhat Hanh book. And I think as learning to meditate, to really be centered in yourself, to understand where you are, you can then be there for other people. And I think it's more a matter of, I think cancer patients need someone to talk to. They don't need people to talk at them. Mm-hmm. They need someone to talk to and just be there and accept what they're saying with grace and just let it sit, let it be, because it is there. It's an elephant in the room for sure. But to share that with someone and just have them hold it with you is, I think, the best thing they could do. So
if someone said to you, I'm here for you. If you just need to talk, if you just need to cry, I'm here. I can listen. Or if you need me, in some cases, maybe, or let me know if there's something that you feel like you want to talk. One of the things I think I have both received and offered is sometimes I will say to people, if you need to talk to somebody outside of your immediate family, like sometimes you feel like the burden is great, right? And you say, if you just need a set of ears and not a shoulder, a virtual shoulder now, but if you need a set of ears, like outside of your kind of closest people, that I'm here for that.
And I think that's really all you can do, because it is horrible. It is terrible. It is an elephant, and an elephant sometimes stepping on your head, literally.
Yes.
But, I think saying that means so much more than God will give you only what you can bear, or, you were supposed to be here for just this amount of time, that's all just gobble crazy. Like,
I'm so
you just
glad
say that because you don't know what to say, or just say, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. I'm sorry that you have to go through that. But, with me, when people say that, I'm like, I'm not. Where you are, all of your life experiences brings you to the place that you are today. So if you don't like me today, then maybe we could take away the brain cancer. But, that's been a huge part of my learning process to be where I am right now. So I wouldn't change it. So, it's because in the end, I'm okay. Whatever happens, I'm still okay.
And like you said, the chronic illness element of it, like we don't think about it like that. I know that we talk to people often about, what's considered to be a death sentence or terminal illness. We talk about it like, we're all dying. We don't know the time or the date of the hour, knowing that you have something that could accelerate that has its mental health challenges, and it also has like you said, you have been able to find a lot of meaning in that, but you can't impose meaning for somebody. I think that's a very important thing that you said, especially coming from somebody religious. I think it's important to hear it from you, because a lot of times people will do that, like, oh, well, God said, or God. It's like when somebody's going through that process, it's like, let them come to whatever they, let them apply meaning. You just be there and
help.
Just listen. That's probably,
and I think
huge.
And yes, I have a really hard time with people, and I am Catholic. I went to church faithfully. Now it's all virtual, whatever. But I think that the end goal of all of it is love. I mean, I think that we are to be there for other people, to truly love them, and to truly be deeply listening to what they're saying, deeply empathetic, deeply feel what they're saying. I think, isn't that what we all want? To be deeply heard and deeply understood. I think that's the greatest gift you could possibly give.
So that's an amazing lesson. And so speaking of lessons, I know that in your book you have some lessons. I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that. Anything you wanted to share about the lessons from the book?
Well, do you want me to read what the lessons are? So
whatever you want.
Well, the first part is an introduction, and I say a lot, about that. Don't take it just as God. Take it as whatever you need it to be. I'm Catholic. This gets spiritual at times, but spiritual, not religious.
Yes.
And to use and the masculine pronoun, like, it bothers me too. I get it. So I start the book out. I always know that when I get a book, I read like the last few pages to see if it ends well, And so knowing that,
of course you do.
I don't waste my time, girlfriend. Like, if this book doesn't look good. But so I said, I'll save you the effort. This is the last chapter. I'm putting it first. So you don't have to flip pages. You can just read this. And if you don't like it, don't read the book.
Awesome.
So it's Reflections on Death. And that's my first chapter. Because like you said, we will all face death at some point, and it's hard to really understand being in that place if you're not in that place, but we all are in that place. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Some of us just get warning and others don't,
Yeah. And I am grateful. That's actually, someone said that to me, that I have this long, slow goodbye to everyone and everything that I love. And to be honest, I am grateful for that, which who knows if that's really how I'm going to die or not. But Father Mike Schmitz is on Ascensions Presents on YouTube. And he has several videos that are just, he says things in a way that you just like, I understand. And he has this video it's called Memento Mori. And it means in Latin, remember your death. And he said when Christians would greet each other back like in the times just past Jesus, like early, they would say Memento Mori. And he was like, isn't that a funny greeting? Like, remember your death and keep walking. Like, but I think it's a good reminder to always be prepared, always be thinking. And I keep going back to this too. This is the second part, like be present now, because right now in the current moment is the only one you've got. I think by doing that, you can be present to your own death because you are invested in that moment. So my next chapter is reflections on my childhood. And I have to admit, I was the oldest, and I just pretty much treated my sister, my brother, like I was so mean to them. I was so, like, Adam has an older sister, and she like cooked meals for him and tutored him. And I was like, now I feel even worse. Like I'm the worst. And I still, like, to this day, I apologize to my brother because I was like, I know I'm so sorry. But my sister actually, and I write about this in a later chapter, she had hydrocephalus, which is it's cerebral spinal fluid in your brain, mm-hmm. and it just keeps making more and more. So her head actually was enlarged, mm-hmm. and it was pushing down on her. So like they call it moon. Oh crap! I can't think. Faces? It made her eyes push down. Uh-huh. And they diagnose it in utero. They go in, put the shunt in while the baby's still in utero, and they come out and they're born fine. But with Candy, they didn't realize it for the first 6 months of her life. Mm-hmm. And so it came with some disabilities. And so there just was like, she couldn't understand things. And so I just like marched on my way. And if I saw them, I'd like walk by and smack them or something. and I was like, after she died, I felt an incredible amount of guilt, because she was in the hospital. She had, every couple of years when she would grow, the shunt, which is a tube that drains the cerebral spinal fluid down and into the belly, into the abdomen. Yeah. And so every time she would grow, it would like pull, and they'd have to go back in and put in more tube. And she had already been in 3 surgeries that year. And she went in, and she was the most, they named her Candy. I guess I'll talk about this. Yeah. And Candace means it means sunshine and goodness and joy. And that is everything that she was. I mean, and there was so much stuff that she just didn't understand. Mm-hmm. She actually, I learned that she was on the bus, and one of the boys thought he was all big time and asked her if she was a virgin. And she was like, no, I'm Italian. Like, she just and it makes me laugh because it was like, that's how she was. She made everyone feel amazed, like really, really good about being in her presence. So I then wrote about reflections on marriage. And I think I put a story in there of my kids. They came up to me. We were living in Vermont, so it was 4 years ago at least. They came up to me, all 3 of them in a line, and they were like, and so Sophia was talking because she's the oldest, and so she does, the dirty work. But they were all sitting there, and they're like, Mama, which one of us do you love the best? And they were all like pointing to themselves. And I was like, Papa. And they were like, no, you don't understand. Which one of us do you love the best? And I said, Papa. And they were like, oh, this. And I said, you were born from myself. I was made to love you. But Papa, I have to choose every day when we wake up. I have to choose to be in a relationship with him.
Well, that's a very good point, Aimee.
And it took them, I think it took so then they went away and they came back the next month, same discussion. They came back the next month. And I think finally they were like, oh, she loves us because she is our mom. Like, moms have to love. But she chooses to love. And I was like, you're all going to graduate and move out of here. And I don't want to be a stranger with Adam when you're gone. I want to know him. I want to love him. I want to love him more than when I first married him, and because of all of what we've been through, not a total stranger to, because we focused on, different kids or, anything else. I think you need to choose each other every day. And I think to truly love is to truly listen to what their perspective is, what their needs are, when I was first diagnosed and pretty much the whole time I was in Arizona, I was really mad at God for giving me this cancer that, once I had my third surgery, we realized that it was just going to be recurrent. And I was like, I have 2 beautiful kids. I have a husband that I love. I'm almost done with school practicing a medicine that I love. And I was enraged with him. Like, this is not what I deserve,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But because I couldn't really take it out on God, I took it out on Adam. I wasn't listening. I couldn't have space for even his issues with my surgery and with me and being different. And, one of the guys I met at a brain cancer group, he called himself Joe 2.0. And I was like, I'm now like Aimee 5.0. But I didn't have space to hear that from him. And in fact, I would go to clinic and be friendly with people and all of the time having to overwork my brain about, you're thinking about differential diagnosis and the next questions. And then I'd lose a word and I'd be like, oh crap, people are paying me to be their doctor. So and all of that was going on. I would be exhausted by the time I got home, and I had 2 kids and I really didn't give him the space that he needed to go through surgery, because I think my whole family has brain surgery. It's not just me.
Of course, right.
How
I want to ask you about Adam and the kids. So, so your kids have grown up. They've never known anything else because they were born after the first brain tumor.
Right.
And I was always like, oh my God, Amy's having children. And I mean, you were just having like tumor. I'm like, this like amazing person. And going through school. Like, I mean, anytime I thought, oh my God, I can't take anymore, I thought, but Aimee, so how do your kids, I mean, I know this is a big question, but in general, it's like, how do your kids deal with a mother with brain cancer?
I've thought about that a lot. And as they've gotten older, I have always been honest with them. They've always known to a certain degree based on, what ages and all that, where I stood. And for a long time, most of Vermont, we didn't talk about it because I thought maybe this is it. I was practicing the medicine that I love. We totally changed our diet to be everything that you're supposed to do. Maybe this is it. And for the first time, I started imagining us with like gray hair and being that retired couple that everyone thinks is so cute, rocking on the front porch. And, and then my 4th tumor came back and I was like, oh, so this is my life, and I think they knew that I was going to surgery, I think now, I think that because my brain function is rapidly decreasing, my kids and I have a joke that they'll tell me something or they'll be like, do you remember? And I'm like, no, I stored that one in the hole, just right in the hole. Here, tell me, this and this about someone. And it just goes straight into the hole. I can't.
You know, the brain is a terrain all in and of itself. I mean, it's almost like, you know, the United, you know, like if you think about the states, it's like you have one section that's California, another one that is like Alabama, you know. And I think that's important for people to know who may be caretaking as well. You know, I think that you know, the frustrations of daily life, sometimes it's the little things that are the most, or the thing that kind of just throws you over the edge, and the kind of back to that support that, you know, people need to give. But the other thing I was thinking about that is just about regions of the brain, and I don't have the specifics, but, you know, like people may be listening to this interview and thinking, I mean, I know for you the word finding is not what you're used to, but for most people listening to this, it's really difficult to tell that something's wrong. If we hadn't told them at the outset, they really would not know that. And so it kind of, it's not indicative of what somebody may be going through in a way. Yeah. And I think that's true of, you know, whether it's a brain tumor, or it can be other things that affect memory or affect people's, like, you know, executive function or critical thinking or even little things, and that can cause a lot of frustration for caregivers. It's like, why is it that you can do this but you can't do that? And it's almost like, are you doing this on purpose or what? And it's like, you know, so I think for people listening, sometimes, because we never know what people get out of things, you know, and I think that's an important story that just exemplifies that. I mean, hearing you would never really understand that you would, you know, that like working memory would not necessarily be there, although you can tell me all these other things and details,
like long-term memory.
Long-term, yeah.
I totally have that. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But when you tell me something, I literally have to write it down in my calendar. And before, I'd get up in the morning, look at my calendar, see what I had to do during the day, you know. Yeah. And now I have to put it in my calendar and set a timer. And half the time the timer will go off and I'll be like, and I'll check my calendar and be like, oh, right, I've got this. Because that's how much I don't, short-term memory it doesn't reach anymore. And, you know, everyone's like, well, the brain is plastic and you can read. Not when they've cut out half of it, you know, like it's just gone. And it's going more and more and more, you know, and so, but I think at that point they knew, like, oh, she's really sick. Because I think for a long time they were frustrated that I couldn't be like other kids' moms. And I don't have my driver's license anymore. You know, I can't drive because I don't feel safe to drive. I can't be around people, like a big group of people makes me feel like so overwhelmed. When before I would sit on the sidewalk with them at parades and like, this is how you get more candy. You know, and then we went to one after, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot, I had to walk back to Adam's parents' house because it was way too much. And that made me sad. Like, I don't want to have to give up parades. I don't want to have to, but slowly, I have had to give those things up. But how that affects me as a person, it doesn't change. You know, even though, you know, and we moved here for us to have a better support system. Adam's family's here. My mom moved out here, you know, but just to take, to really appreciate every moment, because, you know, I know specifically that I don't have a lot of moments left. You know, I lost my train of thought. Anyways.
You were saying you were saying to appreciate every moment because you know you don't have a lot of moments left.
But I think with all of us, you know, like I said earlier, where you put your focus is where you invest will invest back in you. And, you know, my decision now, I got it. I think that, I put my personality in being a great ND, and I was a great ND. But I felt like God stripping away all of those things that I thought of that meant who I was, to just be, and that's all I can do, is just be. I don't have to be anything. I just have to be. And that's where I'm loved, is just by being the beloved. And so
I know I love you like that.
thanks.
And
I love you like that too.
And every time I talk to you, I'm reminded of that. It's just, it's just the spirit of who you are comes through anything you're doing, so that's, and I'm really grateful that you've written the book, because you've poured yourself into that too. So that's there. And that reminds me to ask you about legacy, right? Because I think, again, as some, for people who are not religious and maybe don't even really have a strong spirituality, or, or who are just actively atheists, right? They just think this is it and that's the end. That's the end. Even with that, many of those people a lot of times focus on legacy, like the idea that, we're not individuals. I mean, anybody can see that this is like, this is a connected organism of nature in some way, even if you don't want to call that, spirit, that just by molecules we're connected, right? So would you, for those people, is there anything about your lessons or how you've thought about meaning in life that is, I guess,
would reach them,
related to legacy, and how are you, when you say live each day like it's your last, how are you thinking about your legacy? To me, the book is obvious, and kids are obvious, right?
And actually, my legacy, I think it started by me writing letters to the kids, about different periods in their life that I won't be there for. When they graduate high school, when they graduate college, meeting their husband or wife or both or whatever, having babies and being a grandma and all that stuff and so I started writing for them, and they are who the book is dedicated to, because it's really their book that I'm just sharing with everyone else. But, I said in there too, even if the whole heaven thing is made up, and even if it's a farce, and, which I don't think so, but if it is, and you really just die and go into the ground and you're done, even then, you're not struggling anymore. You're finally set free, because, and the memory of you, I think we are all expressions of our ancestors. My great grandma is coming out in what I'm saying, and, I have my dad's mother's eyes, and I love my eyes. You don't have to like my eyes, but that's the one feature I really love. And I gave it to Everest and Sophia. And I was like, these are my grandma's eyes, and you are lucky to have that and pass that on, because as with my sister passing, each time I talk about a memory of her, or relive an experience with her, or we watch a video with her, I'm helping them know that they have an aunt who is loving and protecting and shining down on them from heaven. And I think that so this is not for the atheist, I suppose, but I feel like all of us are getting to heaven at the same time. We will all show up together. We live on this time, right, where it's 20 years ago and 4,000 years ago, and but I think heaven is the eternal now, and maybe we will all just be energy, maybe that's how we will all meet. But I think we'll all meet up at the same time. And so to be a part of the universe is amazing, and I actually I wrote a poem that I'm having them put on the back of the book or in the fold. And I feel like, and I just want to say before, I feel like in life, it's interesting watching the weather change, and I feel like that's where I am. I feel like I'm in the autumn season of my life, and going into winter. And it's interesting that that's what's happening, at least here in Pennsylvania right now. But I wrote this poem. I sit here watching the autumn leaves blowing in the wind, bright orange and yellow as they fall to my feet. Seeing them disintegrate as I walk reminds me of the disintegration of my brain, day by day, a little more. Reminds me that in death, there is also life. I am united with the leaves, all part of the same cosmos. We are sisters, both reflecting our brief time on Earth, a short chapter in the book of our existence. I think we have lived before we decided to come on this timeline, and we live after. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know that yet, but I think you exist beyond just this existence. I think you've existed before and will go on. I think in death, it's just turning the page of time. It's like, oh, now I see why that happened, or and our thread kind of, it doesn't make sense who we meet and what we say and how that affects people. But then we turn the page of time and we look at this tapestry that is so beautiful, and you see how your string went into this fantastic tapestry,
Well, you have affected me. You have affected me, and although I'm not one of the kids, because I'm older than you are, but your spirit has affected me. You've kept me going. Just knowing you, has given me so much strength in really difficult times, whether you know that or not. And so whatever has affected me then has gone on to affect all the other people that I affect. And so I hope that people, maybe even people who don't have kids, understand that what we do, sometimes we don't even realize how much we're affecting other people, that are, by example, what we do and whatever. And this is one of those examples of how you have affected people around you, like me. And I want to just say that I'm immensely grateful that we coincided in this, however brief a time it may be, in this this time space little fragment. And by the way, crying is good, people. You should do it more often. It's good for you. I'm going to put in a plug for crying. And I'm grateful for that.
And I am so grateful to know you as well. And I think when I think of death as just a passing, I'm just passing through. And I think that in our beloved perfect self, I will know exactly who you are in your beloved perfect self.
So, Aimee, you are so good at just taking the things that people feel are taboo or don't feel like they can talk about because it's too emotional, and just being so down to earth about it and practical. And that's one of your many gifts. I want you to, I know that you've told me that part of the long goodbye that you've talked about is that you've had the opportunity to really look into what do you want to do with your body? What do you want to do with your body when you die? And I think this is one of those things that people just, they don't want to think about it. They don't want to think about it, and they don't want to think about the process of of just death planning. And so I think there's nobody better than you to share that part of your story and say, like, what have you decided? What have you planned to do with your body?
Well, actually, after once I die in Pennsylvania, there is it's called the Humanity Gifts Registry, which I signed up and to donate my body to science, to be a cadaver to train future medical students, what the body looks like. And I think for me, well, I know that, I told this to my gynecologic oncology surgeon and she kind of laughed because, she's like, I've never thought of it like that before, but to give myself as a gift in undergrad, I also had anatomy lab. And one of the ladies that had donated her body was a 45-year-old breast cancer patient. And at the time we were like, oh my gosh, that's so young, because most of them were in their 80s and 90s. And I thought, when they got to her tumor, I held her tumor in my hand. Like, that changes how you see people, that have breast cancer, when you're like, I've seen breast cancer, like the actual cells, and so I said to my surgeon, I feel almost bad having a hysterectomy because they're going to get down to my pelvis and be like, she has no reproductive organs. There's nothing to see, but then I said, once they get, go to my head and like they get into my brain, they'll be like, oh, whoa, you should see, come over here and look at my body.
They will have hit the lottery.
Oh my goodness. They'll be like, oh, she's got like half a brain. How does she even function? And I said, and I said, I will be looking down from heaven, howling, laughing, like, I can't wait to see what nickname they give me and take out my eyeball and squish it. And they're like, it's really squishy. And then your teacher walks by and, your professor is like, you need to respect those bodies. You're like, okay, but it's still really squishy.
We're gonna have to put a trigger warning on. Like, we're just laughing.
Pulling the tendons to make the arm flex.
Yeah.
Like, I want them to do that to me, and I want them to learn from that. And I think, a little humor. You have to have humor in anatomy lab. You just have to. And so I'm doing that. And I had always wanted to be cremated. I don't really want to take up any more space in the ground, but so my family won't get my remains for, up to 2 years after I die. But then I was thinking, like, what to do with those remains then, so they've got it. And I think what I'm going to do is buy what's called a bio urn, and you can put that in, and there's a bunch of several different companies that do it, but it's an urn where you put my ashes and soil, and then you plant a seedling and it will grow. And so I just thought, that sounds like an amazing gift that I can give even after I die, helping medical students, and then growing into a tree with roots. And I love the Vermont sugar maple, so that's what I'm going to be. And I can see my boys' kids like tapping it and making syrup and all this stuff, like what I love about being in Vermont and all the, and so, I feel like that's a way to further give and further be, and it's like, if one of my kids is really missing me, they can go and sit under my tree and talk to me. And, and I feel like that's, that's what I feel the most comfortable doing, is giving away, even after I go, giving away.
Can I tell you that I love that plan so much. So I got excited because the part about donating your body to the cadaver lab in a medical school is exactly what I want to do. Now, have I done it? Have I gone through the process? I haven't, and so you're reminding me to do it because nobody knows,
Yeah.
But that's exactly what I want to do, and for the same reasons, because to me, I was always so appreciative of the people who did donate their body so that we could learn. And I remember, like what you have to go through to, in some ways distance yourself enough so that you could actually, move the tendons and dissect and saw open and do those things you had to, and it's a valuable lesson that you learn, right? And at the same time, I remember the day that we did the hands, when we first uncovered the hands, and I had to leave the room. I cried. I started crying. It was an elderly man, and when I saw the hands, that's when I just grieved that person's. I grieved that person's life and death, and I felt just this incredible sense of compassion, connection, and loss, even though we didn't know each other in life. But that person gave such an amazing gift to me that also keeps on giving, because when you do physical exam, or or you're even imagining illness when you're doing an intake,
you have something to picture.
You've seen the insides all the way, every layer, and that's very different. That's very different than not seeing those things. Right. And it takes a lot for somebody to say, I want to donate my body. So I really appreciate that. Now, the other part I didn't know about, and I'm going to learn about it, and I hope, other people look into it too, because I'm just going to think about you every time we make pancakes. If you go first, we don't know that. You may be thinking about me. As tough as you are, you may be thinking about me while you're making pancakes. But definitely, I love the beauty of that, because it just really, really, instead of distancing ourselves from the cycles of life, it's jumping straight in. And
isn't that kind of my personality? I think, anyways.
Totally.
Well, and I think that even if, all that sounds horrible and you don't want to do any of that, even that, planning now how you want the end of your life to be, both medically, what if you want CPR and the respirator and all that, or no, or, like those, make those decisions now.
Yeah. And
so that way your loved one doesn't have to figure out what to do when you're actually there, make those. And so, I sent the letter, and I just got a letter back saying, we have officially accepted you into the humanities gift program. I was like, oh, it's like I got into college.
You did again.
Thank you. But, and this might be a little much, but I'll say it. So Adam and I, he's my husband, we realized that when you die, you shit the bed, both literally because all of your muscles relax, and figuratively, like you're not there anymore, so you shit the bed. So we have a folder both on my computer and printed out that is STB, and all of that information for me is in there. Even I wrote my obituary. I put down how I want my memorial service to go, all of that planning. And I'm not dying tomorrow. That's not, but that's the point, to do it now so that everyone knows what's going to happen.
Well, and particularly, like you said, you have the gift of doing these plannings. A lot of times people, if there's an accident or somebody gets sick quickly, none of the loved ones know what to do and what's
Right.
needed. And sometimes there's not even the correct permissions. I mean, sometimes if somebody
Yeah.
maybe the technical next of kin is not the person that you really want making your decisions for you. Like in your
Yeah.
case, Adam is that person. But for a lot of people, they may have, a relative that is not somebody they want making decisions, but they are their legal next of kin. So
well, and especially with COVID, if by going into the hospital and not allowing visitors and all that stuff, like even just considering what the disease or pandemic is, even just considering that to do the end of life planning so that, your family knows what you want when you go in.
Yeah. So did you, Adam is your next of kin, but did you have to do any extra paperwork? Can you talk about any of that?
Well, so in Pennsylvania, they have, there's 2 different forms. If you don't mind, I get my STB folder. I can tell you what they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Get your STB.
Okay.
Your shit the best folder.
Okay.
Keeping it real, Aimee. Keeping it real.
Hey, like I said, that's kind of always been my gift and my, whatever. So, if you want to donate your body, there should be a way, I just put in donate my body Pennsylvania and it brought me to this website. So, if you want to donate your body in the state that you live in, you can put that. Again, your family probably won't get your remains and you have to write them to ask for your family's remains. And I already wrote that letter too.
Okay.
But that way you can be able and bio earn. But so in Pennsylvania, they have a Pennsylvania Advanced Healthcare Directive. And and this is like a really simple, you don't have to know medicine to fill this out. It's really basic and simple, but it's, choosing what you want as far as, life support treatments, breathing machine, dialysis, feeding tube, blood transfusion, surgery, medicines, all that. Like, so you say yes, no, and they give you options of maybe, and then, but there's also another form in Pennsylvania that the doctor has to fill out, and I cannot they made me a copy and it's not in here. But I had them fill that out too, just to be clear and of what I wanted. And they had to sign my humanities gift registry as well. So, look into what those directives are and how to, because that was a basic, and everyone in every hospital in Pennsylvania, knows what those papers are. And bring that to your next appointment, even if your doctor's like, I had one doctor, because I've had all this stuff for, years. And I had a doctor that was like, we're not even discussing that right now. Like, I don't want your stuff. I don't want to sign it. I was like, but I'm not talking about dying now. She's like, nope, I don't want to feel, when my surgeon was like, okay, if that's what you want, I support that. And they signed it and put it in my chart. And so, even in that, like, I knew I had a really good surgeon because she understood what I wanted and what I didn't want.
And I think the more we talk about things like this, it helps to normalize it, because I think I've heard people say, they're afraid if they talk about it, that it's going to kind of bring it on, or they're going to resign themselves or whatever. And I don't think it has to be either or. I think, just like you said, it's like you can, just like for anything else, you plan for some eventual thing. And I mean, in terms of death, it's like, well, we are all going to die. That's it's not like you're going to bring on
one thing you don't get out of.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So I think that's really, really helpful that you shared that.
Yeah. And again, like put in BioEarn, and there's different companies and they all call it something, they have their own patented name.
Yeah.
But for me, and they have like 30 or 40 different kinds of trees. So I went through and like found that maple tree, but you can be any kind of tree you want.
I love that. I'm gonna be looking into that. I am. I love the rest of that, because I already had we had the same thought and on the donating the body to the cadaver lab, but I had not looked into the tree part. So I like that continuation. You thought it all the way through. So thank you for that.
And the unfortunate thing is, for 16 years, I've been dying slowly, maybe not as much as right now. I mean, clearly not as much, but, I've had a lot of time to really think about what I want, think about what's going to happen, think about how it's going to be. I'm having hospice. I don't want to die in a hospital.
Yeah.
I said, even if I get COVID and I get pneumonia, I'm not going to the hospital. I don't want to die there.
Yeah.
So all of those things, thinking about them for years, now that we're finally in that position, which is fortunate, unfortunate, even now it's like, so all of these things just go into effect.
Yeah.
At the same time, as soon as she came out, my first thought was, I am never doing this again. Oh my gosh. And then 9 months later.
And then you did it 2 more times.
9 months later, we're pregnant again. We're like, oh, this baby stuff's easy. We got this down. But
was it Everest that you had? Yeah, right. I just remember, your short stature. People can't tell that in the Zoom, but you're pretty
4'11". I'm not tall.
Yeah, all of 4'11", and I remember you 9 months pregnant.
Oh.
Recovering from brain surgery and 9 months pregnant, and in a final exam that I thought I was too exhausted to take, and I would just look at you and go, oh, okay, let's do this. And and I'm not trying to glorify exhaustion. I'm not, or
no.
But sometimes there are times in life when that are really, really rough, and you just you have to rise and you got to get through them. I'm not saying like every day we need to stack our lives with stuff that exhausts us and make us sick. That's a problem in society that we're having.
But I think
in that moment,
you guys are crazy to have 2 babies in medical school. Like, I think I was one of there was one other student ever at our school that had 2 babies in school, and I was like, you just do it. You put one foot in front of another, and eventually you come out on the other side. Now looking back, I'm like, what were we thinking? But it's at the same time, I spent less and less time at home studying because I was more and more a mom that I had to schedule in study time. And my grades actually went up after Sophia and went up even more after Everest, because it was like I got to the library, I had to study, I only had this much time before I had to go home and feed somebody, or
right.
And it's amazing that you think what we did was so difficult and so hard, but yet I learned to manage my time in a way that helped me throughout my life.
Well, you've really helped me to come up with my latest motto, and you're part of it, because lately, with all of this that's going on, my motto is stay calm and get informed. And so if there's all these things happening and it feels overwhelming, and perhaps 5 brain tumors and 3 babies, or this COVID situation, the pandemic, and people are going through that's why I think it's important to hear you now, people are going through really hard things. I was telling you before we were recording that here in San Antonio and in many, many places, people have lost multiple people in their family at once. Like it's just like this overwhelming, and there's really none of us at this point who don't know someone or have lost someone to COVID. So I think just hearing these stories, though, also, in the face of just seemingly insurmountable challenges, we often do just have to put the next foot. We have to do the next right thing. Just stay calm and learn everything we can. And in that learning, getting information, at least to me and to a lot of people I've been talking to, it feels like you can take a manageable piece of it. Like who would think that your grades would go up after having a baby? And it's like, but it makes sense because it's like it really culls all the distractions, and you have to focus on what's important, and that may be breastfeeding at this moment. And this moment, you have X amount of time you're going to study, and there will be no distractions, and so forth. So
I would go to the library because my house is.
Yeah, and you had the support of Adam. Let's not in any way diminish that. I mean, but I also think that it's not the full answer. That's part of it. The other part of it is we are having to find new and different ways of supporting each other and supporting people who don't have the support, because we don't really have a society that values social safety nets. We're still working on that.
And I have learned in meditation, that's where I finally learned that it's, I am the beloved. That's what Aimee means, beloved, right? And that's the name of my book. But that I am suffering, but I can still find that peace and hope and joy that comes out of that suffering, and then realize that everyone else is suffering too. I think it's written for struggle in whatever way that looks like for you, so it's coming soon, Beloved in Brain Cancer.
If there's one thing that somebody, you want somebody to take away from today, I'll say what I feel like I want to take away from today, and then I'll let you have the last word. I feel like so many things, but if I want to say one thing, I think the idea of ourselves as beloved, like the title of your book, seeing yourself as beloved, and also seeing each other as beloved. Because in order to, all the things you said, in order to like really listen deeply and just be with people, and to, I think, place enough importance on being, because we're so about doing, that we get lost, that I think if we really treasured the person in front of us as beloved as they are, and we put that as much importance as we did on like prestige or money or shopping or whatever else that people put prestige or put importance on, that we would know how important that encounter was and how much it echoes through time, or however you want to describe it, like you so eloquently said, that being a beloved with a beloved is what we need to do every day, whether we have a warning about our death or not.
Yeah. Well, and I think, in Christian terms, it's the Christ in me meets the Christ in you. It's the the Spirit in me greets the Spirit in you. I think that is definitely probably the biggest message, I would say. And by just truly sitting and meditating and just being, and there are I can't think, but
take your time. It's okay.
The Zen Buddhist way is, Thich Nhat Hanh, I love how he says, what are they called? The Christian meditators are like, you sit and you have your feet down, and you have to meditate the same word every time, and you only do it for 20 and 30 minutes, or and all this like rules around how you do it, which is okay, I guess. But Thich Nhat Hanh says, I do sitting meditation, I do walking meditation, I do drinking tea meditation, I do doing dishes meditation. And what he's saying is, to really repeat that phrase, and he changes the phrase depending on where he is, but to just always be present in that moment. I think it adds so much, because before I wasn't present in the moment. Even when we were living in Vermont, I was running my own practice all on my own, and I had chart notes and billing and ordering and all that. I wasn't really there for my family. And, now just being is, I think, the most important part of life. So, yeah, I think, and I said that at the end of my book, like from one beloved to another, because we are all beloved. We are all, and like you said, to see each other in that way, I think will make all the difference in the world.
Thank you. So we have been speaking today with Dr. Aimee Knauff. The book is Beloved and Brain Cancer, Living Each Moment as If It Were Your Last. I want to thank you so much, Aimee, for spending your time here with us today. It's precious.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
And anyone who's here in the Zoom, go ahead, and if you want to unmute yourself, I'm going to invite Lourdes to come also to be with us here. And we're here with Dr. Aimee Knauff. We're live and have an opportunity to just talk a little more.
Thank you so much. We have some comments in the
Great,
on
yeah.
the Facebook. You
Perfect.
Don't take it
Oh,
off.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to say, watching again.
My kids came home.
Kids came home. Everything that you said it's like a meditation, because I've heard it, I've heard it many times, all the parts, but sitting back and watching it again, you could listen to this on repeat and get something different out of it every single time, because even though you have this way of making people feel comfortable and like it's okay, it's not a big deal, but make no mistake, that does not mean that every sentence you said has a depth of, like I said, that's a lot of days of living with brain cancer. It's a lot of days,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of thought and a lot of feeling, a lot of suffering, and a lot of
I'm in an interview. You
kids.
got right.
Kids. Kids,
Exhibit A.
get off my lawn. So yeah, I just want to say that hearing that, even for me, hearing that again was just to me it is like a meditation on life and death, and we will be putting links up about when we talked about end of life planning, great thoughts, and about the bio urns and the trees and the pancakes.
I was on Facebook, and so there's a few comments, and just I don't know if you wanted to just go over them. I answered some, but people are very moved by this presentation today, and I've known you also for many years through the medical school years and everything else. So it's really a powerful interview and a powerful message, and I thank you. Just very, very strong, very moving, and beautiful. Like you.
I think my words and the reflections and all of that stuff, I believe that when, I think that it was God's way of speaking through me to get that message across to people. You know, it's not like I'm so intelligent and I figured all this crap out myself. Like, I think some of it was just like, I'm communicating what I feel is what I know is truth, you know? And so that's, yeah. Yeah.
We've had some of, I want to mention that one of our former professors, Barbara Ezra, was here. She had to leave, but she was in here. Sandy Colvard also is sending you love. We have Jill Cole, who's one of our former classmates with us, or close to our class. And there is other people who've said amazing. Thank you, Aimee. Gracias de todo corazón. Thank you from my heart. What an incredible interview and discussion. Thank you so much for sharing your life and journey with us. What a beautiful person you are, Aimee. Sending love to you.
My mom's here too.
Your mom is here.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. And many people there just saying hello and thanking you for sharing the story.
Well, I feel like that's all. It's where I am, and like I said in the interview, you know, it's like I wouldn't trade anything that's happened to me, because that makes me who I am, you know. And I think so. Yeah, I also want to say that I finally got a copy of the book.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah.
And so it's not available yet for release, because I made a couple changes, so they have to send it back to the printer. But I have a website. It's belovedandbraincancer.com. You can go on there, read a bit more about about me, and you can even pre-order a book or books. And so I would love for that to be said. But I also have a couple of readings from my book to kind of give people a taste of what is in there. And like I said, it pretty much is just me talking, and so it sounds a lot like me talking. But there are a couple of things that I want to read, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding?
I believe that solitude is not being lonely, but about being alone with God. Silence isn't not speaking, but it's listening to God. The only thing I ask for is to be open to what the source has planned for me each day, to be awake to what's around me and how to best respond. That's it. My body is getting worse daily, and yet when I wake up, I am all the more grateful. I am all the more okay. I don't live in the brokenness of being a victim, but in the freedom of being spiritually healed. I know where I'm going, which brings me joy in the here and now. On my last day, when I take my last breath, when I don't wake up, I'll be better than okay. I'll be amazing. When I get to heaven, I will experience complete healing, something none of us can find here on earth. I will be my truest self when my eyes are open to bask in the beauty of my Creator. And here's another. In learning about Buddhist and contemplative Christian meditation, I realized the importance of resisting notions about God in order to have direct experience with him. Father George continues to teach me today that in meditation, what he said to me so long ago is now all the more true. Everything you need to know is already within you. I see now that by being fully present in the moment, I can heal the suffering within myself while also helping those around me. Looking inward towards my beloved self, and living out of that love has been the calling of my life. My hope is that you will also discover your calling as you encounter the beloved within yourself in meditation. So that's just a tiny part of my book. And it was really hard for me to find stuff that stood out because it's all my words.
Right. Well, we love hearing your words, and we love that you've poured yourself into the book. Like you said, you wrote it for your kids, but then shared it with the world. And I always think, I mean, we hear that a lot in talking and collaborating with other artists and people who change things. I mean, you almost have to do it that way. You have to do it for yourself. If you're doing it in a way because you think that's what people want to hear, it will never come out authentic. It won't. And just like these interviews, like, we love them, so
we are good.
We're happy. We're sharing them.
Yes.
And I really hope that people, that it will reach people who need the comfort and the twist, the little twist. I think that when somebody does share something really from intimate, deep inside of themselves, that comes from a place that is maybe hard to share, it touches other people. There's a very universal place inside of us.
Yes.
And
because we are all brothers and sisters, and beyond that, all of everything around us, we are all connected. And so to truly know that and be kind and be loving and be for the other is easy when you see life that way,
Yeah.
I think that is a beautiful when you were talking about the life that we have shared in this space time. And your mom wrote, grateful for the parentheses of time that we have together.
Well, and I am grateful to spend my timeline with you ladies as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So maybe people have questions.
If anyone has a question, you can unmute yourself, or if someone writes a question on Facebook, we can ask Aimee while we have her here. And if not, I know a lot of people, this is during the day, for at least for some time zones. And many people have shared and watched the videos afterwards. You can always place comments there, and we'll get back to you. We'll answer.
It's also a very intense and intimate, so it gives people time to sit with it.
Yeah.
And questions will come after that as well.
Do we have a question here in Zoom?
We have a question.
Yes.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm probably gonna cry. I just love Aimee more than anything, and I just want to thank you for seeing that greatness in her and bringing that out. I loved her from her Vermont time here, and I don't know what I'd do without her in my life. So, love you, friend.
I love you too.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And sharing those connections and that love. That's what we need to spread. We've spent too much time listening to every horrible thing that can be said, done, whatever.
Let's not do that anymore.
And we need, there are plenty of people out there creating beautiful things, and that's one of the things we do at VoxFem. We want to feature. We say we feature women who change molecules, and
you have changed lots of molecules.
And we'll continue to do so.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I just want to check to see if there's anything else. We also put. I also want to say we are captioning all of our videos. This one and one other were some of our longest videos, and we had some difficulty. What would Women's History Month be without added on? for
There's,
women. But
Nancy.
but we did put the transcript. There's a link to the transcript, and
yes,
there's a
at the
page
bottom.
for every time we feature a woman. There's a page for her on voxfem.org, and so there's a page for Dr. Aimee Knauff. There will be a link when your bookstore's open. That's the link that we'll have, so you can go directly to buy the book directly from you. And I also have at least an initial transcript that's linked there as well. I'll go back and edit all the, it'll call this Fox Film instead of VoxFem, and call you Dr. Aimee Knucklehead, and so, whatever. I'll change that, but it was pretty good.
Nancy says, thank you, Aimee. Well done.
Well done.
Aimee,
Yes.
Thank
Well, I
you.
want to give you the last word, Aimee,
Yes.
and then we're going to let people go and invite them back again. Tomorrow is the last day of the festival. Day 8 with Annie Flore Bachelilis from Gabon, singer-songwriter, and she will also be with us live. We'll watch some of her music and she'll be with us live, and that is just going to be extraordinary. There's going to be some other artists in the Zoom as well
And
to
we
have a little bit of a global connection.
And Lucy Demare is going to provide translation.
French translation.
So
Cool.
we'll look forward to that tomorrow.
Okay, that's our last words. Now your
Now
last
yours,
words,
Lynn.
Aimee.
Well, I think, again, belovedandbraincancer.com to go and find out more, pre-order the book. And I just want to thank you both for having me, for interviewing me. It means the world to me, and I can't even understand what to think about all the people that are seeing this, and I am grateful for them as well. We are all one, and that's so. Namaste. Blessings to you, blessings in me. Share the blessings, encounter the blessings in you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.